Hey, what's up, Freedom Builders? Welcome back to another live coaching session. I'm excited because I have a special guest today. But before I dive into that, I just wanted to wish you a happy new year. I hope everything is going well and that you're hitting the ground running. It's very vital that you utilize this time to really dive into the course material and really engage as much as possible within our Facebook group, as well as joining us on these live coaching calls. So today, we're changing things up for the new year. I wanted to have this first live coaching session with the host, the star of season 5 of the $1 Million Case Study. You probably know know him. Lenny Smith is joining me here today. If you just want to chime in there, Lenny.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rolando. It's always been a pleasure to. I've generally been a lot more behind the scenes when it comes to Freedom Builder Bootcamp and sort of supporting Rolando and Greg. But I'm super excited to join today and just to kind of reiterate what Rolando said about the new year and this opportunity. Whilst 2020 wasn't the greatest year in a lot of ways for e-commerce. It couldn't be a better time to get started selling on Amazon. We've definitely seen a huge increase in the demand and people shopping online. So definitely excited about being here today and answering as many questions as we can.
So if you're not familiar with the format and you're new to these live coaching calls, this is your opportunity to literally ask any questions you may have regarding what it is, where you're at in the stage of this whole seller journey. So just chime in, drop your questions in the comments section of this live feed. What we like to do is start out with the questions that have already been previously submitted. We typically put these live coaching calls a week out in advance so that people can start dropping questions within the comments section. We'll go through those questions first, and then we'll start jumping into the questions and get through as many questions as possible. Typically within this hour, we can knock them all out. We usually have a good record of answering all your questions during this hour. And so to kick things off, let's pull up the first question. And I'll let Lenny tackle this since he is the $1 Million Case Study Pro. I'll ask it to him. Sunny asks, doing product research and found a product with high demand and low competition, but average price is about $16 to $17. Should I add something extra to justify a higher price to get to $20? What about having to drop the price a little when first launching? Would I be losing too much money?
Yeah, good question. So I'd say that $16 to $17, and again, just keep in mind that I don't know your product, I don't know how much it costs, I don't really know any of those details, but just purely looking at price, $16 to $17 is okay. There is room there to make some good profit as long as your expenses aren't too high and that sort of thing. But at the same time, if you can find a way to increase the price there and get it up to that $20 mark, then even better. Generally, the higher the higher the price that you can sell at, the more profit you can take home, or the wider the profit margin. Essentially, the reason being, the lower your price point, the more fees that you have get caught up in these set fees. So when you're doing FBA, part of the fees that you pay Amazon is the referral fee, which is a percentage of your sales price. So that's fine because that, again, is just a percentage. But the set fees for picking, packing, and shipping your product, those are set. So the lower your price point, the higher the percentage of those fees. So that's why having a higher price point usually means more profit margin. But to try to give you a clearer answer, specifically for $16 to $17, as long as, generally, like, I like the rule of thirds, where it's like you aim to find a product for roughly a third of your selling price. Generally, another third goes to Amazon. And then if you can then take home around about a third, 30, 35%, or anywhere from like 25 to 35% profit, then I think that's pretty good. If your profit margin on that $16, $17 is less than 20%, then I would probably try to go up to $20. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of an idea. But if you want any more clarification, then I'm happy to share more.
Awesome. Looks like Sunny has the next question. Generally, what should the cost be of a product if I will set it for $20, if the size is standard, large, and weight is less than 2 pounds to ensure a profit? I want to ensure a good profit margin, but I am concerned because of having to run PPC, etc. Should we look for a higher priced item instead? A general rule of thumb too, just kind of adding on to what Lenny, this kind of feeds into what Lenny talked about, is you don't want to be the lowest price product, but you definitely don't want to be the highest price product. It's always about finding that sweet spot, finding your top competitor in the early stages of launch, and pricing just below your top competitor, because we talked about this in other coaching calls. When it comes to selling anything, it's all about the power of persuasion and being able to convince your target audience that there is value in what you offer. If you're the lowest priced, you come across as a cheap product, and you probably will just turn people away just by the price that you set. So it's important that you find that sweet spot just below your main competitor. Look at the bestseller category within your niche, and then start there and start seeing what the competition is priced at. That's who you're trying to take out. That's what you're trying to win, that number one bestseller rank within your niche. So hone in on that and really understand who the competition is there and what they're doing. Your goal will be to emulate what they're doing and just kick it up a notch above theirs. So that's important when it comes to pricing. The other thing you talk about is, should I pursue this product because of the size and so forth? You just need to run the numbers. You need to crunch the numbers. You need to see, you need to find your top competitor, see what Amazon's charges are, factor that into your cost per unit, along with you'll be able to at least find what it is that your break-even point is, and then from there you'll know if it's profitable while you run PPC in addition to maybe running coupons and so forth. So that's why I say never price below your break-even point and never be the lowest priced product. You'll only be hurting yourself in that process. And what I'll do is we have a budget and profit calculator that helps you to be able to crunch the numbers very easily. So I'll just drop it in the thread here, in the live thread, so that everybody can gain access to it as well. So make sure to complete that. And you would do this with any product idea, just even if it's not the one that you're actually running with yet. You just want to make sure the numbers work in your favor. All right. Rob has the next question lined up here. And he's asking, how long does it take for Amazon to process items? I have been waiting for over 3 weeks now.
I think, so, now's a bit of a tough time. I know that there's actually another seller on our team that he's just been telling me how his product has been sitting in reserve for over 4 weeks at this stage. So I think it's quite typical at the moment. It's interesting though, because I actually sent a new product into Amazon not that long ago, and once that arrived and checked in, it ended up becoming available within, or I'd say maybe 3/4 of the inventory became available within a few days. And then the other quarter took another couple of weeks to become available, because I think it was reserved and being shipped around to different fulfillment centers. So I think there are maybe some instances of, I don't know why, but certain products or shipments that are maybe getting in a little bit quicker, but it's definitely, there are definitely reports of people waiting a long time at the moment.
Yeah, we're dealing with, first, obviously, last year was the pandemic, which really slowed things and bogged things down. But then we went into Q4 and we're just coming out of Q4. So you're going to have those challenges. A lot of people start also really getting inventory in during this time frame. because they've pre-ordered to avoid missing out the opportunity due to the Chinese New Year, which is coming up in February. So a lot of suppliers are proactive in reaching out with customers and saying, hey, get your order in now, because if you you might miss out the opportunity while we close down in February. They're practically closed for the entire month when it comes to the Chinese New Year. So that's why you're in January. You have Q4 and January are typically a period of time that there's just a lot happening when it comes to them being able to process your supplies, your inventory. Looks like Rob has the next question. How many keywords or ASINs do you put in a PPC campaign? That's a great question, and I think one of my things that I like to do is I believe that less is best when it comes to everything. To be quite honest, because you'll find that the more keywords that you use, the more difficult it is going to be to manage your PPC campaigns. You typically you're running your automatic campaign. That's campaign number 1. So obviously no keywords needed there. You just let that run and do its thing, and find some long tail keywords that you would like to use, that you'd like to target and hone in on in a separate campaign. But then you have your research campaign, which is your second, the second campaign that you're running alongside your automatic campaign. That research campaign is going to be broad and generalized, and you're using it to essentially fish out like the best keywords that people are searching. So if you keep those keywords, very, very focused on what your product is, but also very broad. And within that second campaign, and you would actually have a broad and a phrase match type. And these two, essentially, they're identical, and all that it is the match type is different in these ad groups. So they are just basically looking for additional keywords that people are additional search terms that people are seeking out and landing on your product. And then the ones that perform best, then you also move those into that exact match campaign. So you're basically running 3 campaigns, and in the early stages, you're just running 2. You're running your automatic campaign and that research campaign. I'll just call it research campaign. And then the third one being an exact match type campaign, where you're basically funneling all of your best results into. Hopefully that answers that. So the goal with this basically is anywhere from 10 to 20 keywords is more than enough. Like, you do not need more than 10 to 20, because the results that a broad and a phrase match campaign they will generate is pretty exponential. Like, if you think about how a broad and a phrase match type work, and definitely, so that's a great question. 10 to 20 keywords to sum it up. All right, looks like Rob has the next question. It looks like it's also PPC related. How do you target custom audiences with low bids and lower star rating than yours? So if I'm understanding this correctly, Rob, there are no custom audiences within Amazon's PPC. You can target you can do product targeting. So you might find a product that has, a low star rating than a lower star rating than yours. You could target that product and do a product targeting, but you can't do custom audiences. You could do some tweaking and adjustment as far as, if you want to target the impressions and so forth, but there is no custom audiences. That's more along the lines of like Facebook ads and Google ads that offer those type of features.
Yeah, I guess my understanding is that you input those yourself. Like, you would need to do the research and identify the ASINs that you want to target, the ones that have a lower star rating, or maybe it's like they're higher priced than you is like another good one. But yeah, I guess you find the ASINs and input those into the campaign is my understanding.
And with product targeting, you could also target brands. You could also target niches. You can get you can get broader. But you're right. The more refined that you could get, the results will be best, because you won't be overspending, and essentially you're honing in on the competition that you really want to focus on. All right, I'll let you read off the next one. I don't want to be a hog here, Lenny.
All right, let's do it. So the next one here is from Rob. Trying to lower my ACOS to be profitable. I optimize PPC every 3 days, but I think I might have too many keywords in my campaigns, average of 80 keywords and ASINs, but I have a high daily budget so I don't run out. Should I split it up into main keywords, high search volumed, long tail keywords, etc.? Yeah, probably to piggyback off of what Rolando was saying earlier. I used to stuff my campaigns with hundreds of keywords, but of late, or the last, I don't know, year or so, I've definitely been a big proponent of just having smaller numbers of keywords in my campaigns. So I probably would split up those campaigns and just test it out. That's the other element of this, is that we can give you suggestions based off of our experience or what we've heard from others. But a lot of PPC advertising comes down to experimenting. So yeah, my suggestion would be to perhaps break them up. I'd also say you don't need to be too, go too crazy with splitting it up into lots and lots of different categories. But if you took those 80 keywords and split those up into 2 or 3 groups, I think that would be great, and you can kind of just see how each of those performs. But I think Rolando kind of answered that earlier, so I'd say yes, try splitting them up and see how that goes. I don't know if you have anything else to add there, Rolando.
No, definitely, and that kind of ties into what we talked about earlier with your PPC campaigns, Rob, where you're asking how many keywords. Your long tail, typically, if there's a long tail that you're trying to target, it's because it's giving you good results. Yeah, you definitely want to isolate that into an exact match campaign. So your top performers you put into an exact match campaign, so that it will have budget that it could spend. And you're going to find in the early days, because maybe there aren't that many exact match type keywords, long tail keywords in that campaign, that you probably won't get as many impressions. You probably won't get as many clicks, just because of the nature that it's just one isolated keyword and that's an exact match. Then the person has to type that exactly. But over time, you could start racking up the 80 keywords that you find that are the best performers in there. That's going to be where you just kind of house your best keywords. And then over time, you might find one keyword that is just top notch, and then you might need to actually create a fourth campaign just for that one keyword, because it gets lots of search volume. So then you might even isolate that even further. But the stages go from you're conducting your research based on the results that you're getting from your search term report. Then you want to move those into its own campaign, your top performing keywords, and then maybe consider down the road if there's one keyword within that group, isolating that keyword and putting it in its own campaign as well. When you're doing this process of moving and shifting keywords into an exact match type campaign, you also want to negate them in the automatic campaign and in the research campaign, so that way the exact match is just ultra laser focused on those keywords, and you're not spending anywhere else. You're not self-cannibalizing your campaigns.
Makes sense. All right.
Some good questions. Some advanced questions we're getting. Rob's a veteran. He's been with us, and so he has some cool success stories he shared with us in here. I don't know if you want to share something with us, Rob. That'd be cool. But yeah, we're really excited that you're crushing it, like we say.
All right, I can jump into the next one here. From Sunny asking, if Alibaba states on a company profile that it is a trading company, but when I ask the company what they are and they state that they're a manufacturing company, would that mean that they're misleading me or something? Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. So sometimes you'll find that companies can be both. But I also have found that the profiles on Alibaba can be misleading. They might say they're one, but they're the other. So what we often suggest is doing a few other little checks to give you an indicator as to whether this particular company is a trading company or not. So one of the best ways to check this is the types of products that they create. So when you're in their profile screen, you can go up to products, and then you can see a lineup of all of their products. So if they're a manufacturer, what you would typically expect is that all the products are very closely related. For like baby hooded towels, all the products would be towels or linen or textiles or that kind of thing. If you then started to see like, oh, they also sell metal products and wooden products, or products that get made by different machinery, then it's more likely that that is a trading company because they're selling all these different products. However, if you see that all the products that they list on their profile are ones that would typically be made by the same kind of machinery or very closely related, then it's it's fair to say that they're likely a manufacturer. So that's probably the best way to check. Another thing you can do is to use the Jungle Scout supplier database. This is a great tool to help you verify suppliers. So if you take the name of that supplier, put it into supplier database. If they've imported into the US, they should appear there, and you should be able to see their US import records. And from that, it shows all the different types of goods that they've declared. So again, you'll be able to see if they've got lots of different materials that they've imported, then they're likely a trading company. You can also see a breakdown of the shipments themselves. And again, you can just compare all the descriptions. If they're all like towels and whatnot, then they could be a manufacturer. But if they're lots of random products that aren't related, then they're probably a trading company. So those are a couple of ways to go about kind of checking the difference between the two. As far as which one to work with, generally we say, or a lot of people say that, you want to work with a manufacturer because the trading company is kind of a middleman and they might bump up the prices a little bit to make their own profit. So there's definitely advantages to working with a manufacturer. You get to work directly with them so that if you need changes or anything else like that, it's a lot easier to get those implemented. However, trading companies aren't necessarily bad to work with. Some advantages of those are that they will generally allow smaller order quantities. So with a manufacturer, you might have to order 500, 1,000 or more units, whereas a trading company might be more open to smaller amounts like 50, 100 or 200. So that's one advantage. Also, one thing that I've liked about working with a couple of trading companies before is that they've been able to help me find related products to either bundle, or if I just want to sell other similar products, they've been more easily able to find different products. So those are a couple of like pros and cons between working with the two. So hopefully that answers your question, Sunny. I'll quickly jump into the next one because it looks like it's very similar. What does it mean if Alibaba lists on a company profile that they are both a trading and manufacturing company? Should we be aware of anything when dealing with these? I think I've pretty much covered it. Like I said, it is possible that some companies do specialize in manufacturing, but they also take on some of the role of a trading company as well with some products that aren't their own. I don't know of anything else to be aware of. I think I've pretty much covered it, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, Rolando.
No, that was very thorough. That was good.
Okay.
Sunny has the next question as well. I've heard that because of the 200 item limit, you could ask a supplier to store the items and then we would ship them to Amazon in batches as items run out of inventory, or you can ship to a warehouse in the US to store and then ship to Amazon. What are pros and cons of either option besides the cost of having to store in the warehouse in the US? So because of this limit, of course, it's created, we've had to become creative in the way that we store our goods. And this is typically with a new listing. Amazon has put a 200 unit limit that adjusts over time, depending on your IPI score. Your sell-through rate is factored into your IPI score, as well as the length of time that the goods are stored at Amazon's warehouse. All of these things contribute to your limit increasing and going up. So you'll find that a new listing will have 200, that limit, and this is just a temporary thing. Keep this in mind. This isn't Amazon's typical policy. This is actually as a result of the pandemic, and them just trying to create more room, more space for more goods to come through. And so the pros of storing it with your supplier, for example, if they are willing to do this, is that, of course, you don't have to go and find another warehouse where to store your goods within the United States. Let's say if you're selling in the United States, you don't have to go through that process of vetting who is going to be your third-party logistics company, as we call a 3PL company. In addition to that, it's just a simpler process. If you purchase the 1,000 units up front, you tell them, hey, just send 200 for now, but I'm gonna buy the full 1,000, your minimum order quantity. Even better if they just say, yeah, you could just buy 200 units, we'll work with that. That's even better, because then you don't have to put up front buy the entire 1,000 units, let's say, for example. So that's kind of a pro and a con, is that you depends, you might have to buy still the entire 1,000 units, but they'll at least ship it, like piecemeal it, I guess you could say. One of the biggest con is the cost, because every time that you have to ship 200 units, now you're talking about the whole process of it going through either if you're a freight forwarder, or if they're shipping direct, maybe they may even, it may be more expensive. Just going to cost over time, because you're constantly shipping smaller quantities. And the way that shipping works, if you can ship bigger, bulkier, bigger items up front, your cost comes down, because then you could ship them by sea versus by air. And so that's going to lower your cost. And you might just get a container load instead. And so now your cost comes down significantly. So that's the pro and the con to this. And I guess that would answer both, because if you go with a third-party logistics company, the pro is that it's already warehoused in the United States. It can ship quickly you could actually put an order through very quickly to Amazon. If you start to see that your inventory levels are beginning to drop significantly, then you could just very quickly, maybe within, turnaround within 7 days, you could have it at Amazon, at one of Amazon's fulfillment centers. Whereas if you're shipping, let's say your supplier's in China, you're shipping from China, you can imagine you're looking at 60 to 90 days if it's going by sea. So that's pretty much, I think those are the issues you will run into either scenario. And to help you out, what I'll do is I'm going to drop a link to one of the articles that we've written on this topic. And there's actually some third-party logistics companies on this article that you may want to consider. It's not a cookie cutter type scenario. I know in the past people have asked, like, which company should I use? It's very dependent on do you have high sales, and so some companies may not even take you up, because they're probably looking for larger quantities. Some focus on warehousing, some focus on being able to ship from their fulfillment center to directly connecting to Amazon's portal, but shipping from their warehouse to your customer. So it's almost like a fulfilled by merchant. So that's why I say there's no cookie cutter shape for it. This article that I'll share we'll dive deep into this, and you'll be able to kind of figure out where you're at and what course of action to take. So let's see here. Well, I looked that up, Lenny. I guess if you want to take on the next question.
Yeah, let's see. All right. Zia Saleh. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Hi, guys. Do you prefer pre-shipment or due inspection? My mentor highly suggested the during production inspection, but when I contacted the inspection company, the account manager said the normal practice is to do a pre-shipment inspection. The problem is my order will be done just before Chinese New Year, which means if any defects inspected in the order, there'll be no time to fix them. Can you please let me know what to do? I guess I can let you know what I have done. I guess it will be ultimately up to you, but basically, like what you were told, the pre-shipment inspection is the most common one. That's what I have always done as well. And to be honest, I haven't tried the other types. I understand the logic of wanting to get it inspected during production to catch any particular issues. But yeah, to be honest, I've never tried that. I'm not sure whether there's any difference in cost or anything like that. Yeah, let's see. I've only ever tried the pre-shipment inspection just because again that is the most common one. So I guess it depends on how likely or like how much risk is involved with your type of product. If it's a very intricate one where there's a high likelihood of something going wrong, or like there is severe consequences for that product, if something goes wrong, then I'd maybe push for more of the during production inspection. But yeah, otherwise, with a pre-shipment one, if generally what happens is if there are any issues, the supplier will agree to fix those issues in most cases. But I understand that, yeah, there won't be time to in your situation if there are any defects. But yeah, I guess I've just never done the other type. I'd say maybe like get a quote for it and find out the details. I'm not sure what the pros and cons of or would be of doing that type. Yeah. So unfortunately, I can't help you anymore with that one.
Right. So it looks like I don't know if we touch on the question by Sunny, where it's that manufacturer from global sources.
Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Yeah, my bad.
No worries. I'll quickly cover this one. So Sunny asks, manufacturer from global sources asked me to find and pay for a courier to send a sample from China to me in the US. When I looked on DHL, the cost was over $200. FedEx and Fidos via Alibaba were more expensive. Is there a less expensive option? Unfortunately, no. It depends on the size and the weight. Of course, that's a key factor when it comes to shipping. But if you're doing anything like a DHL or FedEx, it's going to be expensive just because of it's coming by air, and you'll probably have it within the week. So when it comes to doing this, sometimes what happens with some suppliers is they'll actually reimburse you or kind of factor into your cost they'll refund the sample cost if you end up working with them, but the cost of the flight is always going to be on you, or the cost of shipping is always passed along to you. And unfortunately, yeah, it's just all the work or not the work, but just the delivery method is of sending it by air is always going to be pretty costly. I've sent plenty of goods to China and plenty of goods to me, sample in the form of samples, and unfortunately, I just can't avoid the cost of trying to. I mean, I try to finagle manufacturers. But they don't budge because they don't know if you're going to be ultimately a customer of theirs or not. So they don't want to eat that cost. Maybe on a repeat order, they're willing to work with you more. You can definitely do a little negotiation there. But in the early stages, when they don't know like if you're serious or not, then they're going to make you pay the cost. And so, yeah, that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, I'd maybe just to quickly add there and to reiterate, the thing to know here is that is a typical cost. Like you might see like $200 and go, wow, that's crazy. Am I being overcharged? But no, that is very, very typical. Anywhere from $50 to $150, $200 for a sample is pretty typical. One thing I have heard, but I've never tried, is that, and you might know, Rolando, I think maybe it's a service that you can use that if you're ordering different samples from different factories, they can consolidate all of those and send them off together, and that can work out a little bit cheaper for you. I think maybe it's a particular service that you use, but I've never personally tried it. So that's maybe the other thing if you're planning to get samples from different suppliers, trying to consolidate them in one package.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that process, but there's lots of services out there. There's even services to be able to try to source your product for you. Say, for example, in China. I personally avoid services on top of everything else that I'm doing because then it just eats away at my profit. And so the goal is not to have several, like, you just want to have a few options as far as samples sent to you, because you've already done your homework. You've already understand the supplier. You understand their quality. You can, because looking and comparing to the different suppliers that that are like kind of like your top three. And so that's why you just want to narrow it down, hone it down to the product before you start sending those samples, so that offset the cost of sample delivery. All right, so let's keep going. Wow, we got a lot of questions. Let's see if we can plow through these here.
Okay.
Trying to find the next question. It looks like it's Brian.
Yes.
Yeah. Brian asks, I'm fairly new to Freedom Builder, the Freedom Builders and FBA. I recently completed the Freedom Builders course and just started doing my product research. I have a few questions about what I'm looking at in the product tracker to narrow down my first possible product to sell. I think I followed all the necessary steps to pick out 10 plus potential products, but I'm noticing that the average reviews are rather high. Can someone help me with where I could have gone wrong? So you're always going to find that within your product research, the top competitor is more established, is going to have more reviews. I really don't pay too much attention to that, because if it's an established company, typically you can come in and it's like David versus Goliath. You have more flexibility than an established company, and you can come in there and you could work with price. You could adjust your your offer a higher quality product, or it could be also a bundle. It could be any variant of how you're going to improve this product so that you can take down the competition. Like I always think of it this way. Typically, once they've gotten to the point of being in that top category, they get a little lazy, because they're dependent on they're depending on that volume already. They're comfortable with it. They've got the reviews. But yeah, you want to be the David versus the Goliath and come in there. Now, the key thing is, if you see that it's very saturated with reviews, that the entire top 10 in that category, that niche, have insane reviews, then that's a little more questionable. That's a little tougher for me to commit to. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to have competition, and you are the David coming in, going against the Goliath in most cases. There are some niches that are fairly new and not as developed, so you're going to find some of the competition that doesn't have as many reviews. But products that have been in existence for who knows how long tend to have be a little bit more competitive. So don't be too alarmed by that. I would say the key thing here is crunch the numbers, make sure that they work in your favor, and see what you could do to quite possibly outmaneuver, outshine the competition.
Yeah.
If you have something to add to that, Lenny.
Yeah, I think you covered it all there, Rolando. The only thing I'd add is the only time, and this is like I'm sure what Greg has went over through the training, but it's like it's okay if like one or two of the top 10 or so are a little bit higher. The only thing that I would keep an eye out for is how are the sales distributed. If that one or two really high competitors, if they're taking the majority of sales, then that would be a red flag for me. But if you still see that the sales are still well spread out, so that all the other listings that have lower sales are that have lower reviews are still getting sales, then I think you're fine to be able to enter that market. So that's the only caveat I would make there about high reviews or competition. I can take the next one. And it is, I ordered 1,000 units from my supplier. When I went to Seller Central to create the shipment, Amazon wouldn't let me ship more than 200 units. What should I do with the remaining ones since I don't have space in my home? Also, shipping-wise, how do I ship them? At the Freightos website, it's either the whole shipment to Amazon or to your house. Do I divide the shipment, or the same freight forwarder will ship both? How does that work? Okay, good question. Let's try to break this down. With the 200 unit limit, generally speaking, it's probably going to be better for most people to continue ordering the 500, 1,000 units, etc., that they normally would have, and to probably, Rolando outlined the differences earlier. Either leave it in China at the manufacturer and ship 200 at a time, or move all of it to the US and then ship in 200 units at a time. Personally, I prefer to move it into the US so that it's really close by and you can send 200 units in quickly, okay? It just gives you more flexibility. So that's the first step. I think getting it into the US is what I would recommend. As for, do you get the freight forwarder, or do you get two different quotes from Freightos? You could do that. You could get them to send 200 units direct to Amazon and then the rest to you or somewhere else. Or, well, I suppose let's talk about where you would get them shipped. If you don't have space at your house, the best thing to do is to use something called a 3PL. Basically, they're like a third-party warehouse that can store all of your goods. They can then ship them into Amazon. They can actually do a whole bunch of other things as well. For instance, if you fulfill on eBay or maybe in Walmart or anywhere else, they can actually send them into other places, or do fulfill by merchant for you. But we won't worry about that. We just want somewhere to store your goods. The advantage of 3PLs is that generally their storage fees are a lot cheaper than Amazon. So even before the 200 unit restrictions, a lot of sellers, particularly bigger ones, would send their inventory to 3PLs and hold their large goods in there and then just send smaller amounts into Amazon, just because it's cheaper paying the monthly storage fee there than it is at Amazon. Then especially during Q4, Amazon's storage fees went sort of through the roof, as well as the 200 unit inventory has almost made it kind of a necessity now to use 3PLs. So that's what I would recommend. I know Rolando mentioned earlier that he was going to share a link to a blog that we talk about how to use 3PLs and also has some suggestions.
It's sorry to interrupt, Lenny. I dropped it in there. I put it under read this, and that's where the 3PL blog post is. So definitely check that out.
Cool. All right. So my suggestion would be use Freightos to get a quote to send it from the factory into the 3PL. Just send everything in there. Then what you can do is on Amazon or in Seller Central, you can create a sort of a local shipment and use Amazon's discounted rates to get it from anywhere within the US into Amazon. So then Amazon can pick it up from the 3PL and take it to their warehouse. So that's what I would do rather than splitting it up at the freight forwarder level. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. But let me know if you need clarification, but we'll keep moving through. The next one here is from Shiraz. When I have registered a trademark for my brand name, am I able to list multiple products in different categories under this one brand name? When registering the trademark, do I have to pick lots of different trademark classes for each product I want to sell, which can get expensive, or is there one class that can cover all e-commerce sales? So I don't think there's one class that will cover all e-commerce sales. I think you would still need to select the specific classes, right? This is a good question, though. I actually went through the brand registry process recently for the $1 Million Case Study. I used Amazon's program called the IP Brand Accelerator, which essentially, if you use Amazon's discounted partners to apply for your trademark, then you can enroll in brand registry much quicker. You can do it within a few weeks rather than waiting 9+ months to have your trademark registered. So that's what I did. And they were actually so helpful. It was such a nice process that I can't remember some of these final details. But what I can tell you is that I only registered for one class, and that class was specific to the product that I'm selling, which is these washable pee pads. But now that the brand is enrolled in brand registry, I suspect that you won't need to register additional classes for different types of products. I don't know that for sure. That's just my experience. I think the goal with getting the trademark is just to be able to enroll in brand registry. Once you've enrolled in brand registry, I don't believe that Amazon is going to be checking to make sure that the products that you're selling match that particular class on the trademark. All that Amazon will be checking is that they'll be making sure that the product that you're selling does have the registered brand name, okay? So yeah, to answer your question, I don't think you're going to need additional classes for every single type of product that you sell. That's my feeling. I think once you're in brand registry, it doesn't matter. But yeah, if anything changes in the future, we'll be sure to kind of update you.
Cool. The next question is from Christine. What we'll do is this is a long question with, it looks like maybe six or seven questions in it. We'll tackle this last, so that way we can get through some of the individual questions here, and then and this will be the last one that we'll address. And so just Christine, stick around to the end, and we'll answer all your questions. But we just want to spread it out a little bit as far as the other questions that have been coming in. We're still working on the ones that were submitted earlier on, and we want to get to some of the live questions as well. So we'll jump to so remind me, Lenny, at the end. We'll do that.
We'll do that.
Mariama asks or says, thank you so much for hosting this, Greg. We have learned immensely from your course. My question is regarding how to get the FNSKU without creating a public listing. We need our FNSKU to give our package to our package designer. Of course, at this stage, we don't have the listing created. Do we need to create one to get an FNSKU? If we do, can we make the listing private until we upload photos, text, etc.?
Yeah.
So Mariama, yes, you will need to create a listing in order to be able to generate an FNSKU. And for those that aren't familiar yet, haven't gotten to that point, an FNSKU is essentially a Amazon assigned barcode so that they use internally. It's not like it is the equivalent of a UPC, but Amazon has its own version so for its internal use, right? And pick, packing, and shipping your product. So that's what the FNSKU is. Ultimately, you want to have this FNSKU on your package. Ideally, you want your supplier to label it for you, either through your design work or just like a sticker that's on the product directly. So that's your FNSKU. The question is, will it be public? Your listing will not be public until items arrive at the warehouse. So you don't have to worry about that. It's not live until there is inventory for the product. So the listing would actually I always suggest when you're creating your listing to go in and literally like spend the time and make it to what it should be. You might not have images, so you could for the time being, you could just put one image on there. You will need to put an image to be able to save the listing. So just put like anything for the time being. It's not going to matter. But definitely build out your title, build out your description, your bullet points, your description. Do your keyword research prior to this, obviously, and then use the listing builder to help you along this process. Reason being is once your product arrives, then well, you'll have a sample shipped to you. You'll take photos of that, and then those will be the photos that you will use on your listing. And shortly thereafter, you'll probably have your products shipped to you as well, because it'll be a final sample that they send to you, either directly to you or to your photographer, and that's what you would use. And then in the meantime, your product is probably being shipped by sea, and maybe the samples shipped by air so that you get it faster. Very important that you build it out, because one of the benefits of being a Freedom Builder Bootcamp member is that you get one listing review. So you want to take full advantage of that listing review, in the sense of it's not like a mock listing. It's actually the listing that you're going to use, because that's how you're going to get real good, solid feedback on that. And that's done by our customer support team. The next thing is, let's see here. Yeah, so I think that covers that. You'll need to, in order to get an FNSKU, you will need to go to gs1.us, I believe is the site. And they and you can buy one UPC right now. They're doing this. Originally you had to buy 10, but now you could just buy individual UPCs. So you buy the UPC, you provide the UPC on the listing on Amazon, and then you can proceed to get your FNSKU. So those are the steps needed there. Next question. Edward asks, hello, I'm really new to this and still in the first step of setting up my LLC. Congratulations, everyone. That's awesome. So I have a few questions regarding to that. Do you know anything about obtaining a virtual business address for setting up the LLC? Because I don't live in the US. So I'll tackle each one at a time. It's very important that you use your physical address, no matter where you're residing, because early on, Amazon changed its rules, and they don't want PO boxes, and they don't want like fictitious addresses. They want a true physical address of the owner, and that's just for issues of I don't know. We can get into that topic. That's a whole other subject. But just your physical address is the most important thing that you use. Of course, your LLC, you're going to find a company within the United States that could set that up for you, but don't use their address. Typically, they will give you. They say that you can use their address. Do not use that address. Your account will be delayed to get started, because typically what happens is they ask for proof of address, and so they're going to ship a postcard, or they're going to ask for you to provide a bill in your name. And if you can't provide this, your account will be locked up and you won't be able to open an account. So that's very important that you do that. Second thing, it says, do you know anything about obtaining a virtual business? Okay. Second question is, do we need to obtain a business license before selling? No, you do not need a business license before selling. Does Amazon collect any and pay sales tax for us? Do we have to do it ourselves? Amazon has become more savvy in that it does in certain states. Not all states have rolled this out. But they will if you set that in your settings, and we go over this in the modules. So definitely on the module that's focused on sales tax, you'll be able to identify where it is that you go in and you just turn this on, so that you let Amazon handle this for you. All right, so that is the questions that were submitted. So we're going to go and jump into the live. I know there's some additional questions that were dropped here live as well, but let's get to the first questions that were submitted live, and then we can kind of circle back if we have more time.
Okay. There's
Although we only have 4 minutes left.
All right, let's smash through
them. Probably go a little longer. It's okay with you, Lenny?
Yeah, that's all good. So let's see. I can jump into this next one from Julio. I just started selling my first product out of nowhere. Amazon marked my products as counterfeit or not original and disabled my account. I have invoices from my supplier, letter of authorization, but every time I try to restore my store, Amazon responds with the same generic mail, not being able to confirm my account. I've tried like 6 times. Any thoughts on this? This is kind of a tricky area. Amazon's, like Rolando was saying, they're definitely stricter on people setting up accounts, making sure they get verified. So I'm just trying to understand. So they disabled your account. Was it because you weren't able to verify your account as verify your seller account, or was it because of the actual product itself? I guess you mentioned that they marked it as counterfeit or not original. Yeah, that's kind of a tough one. I know that sometimes you might encounter, like, if a product that you're selling, maybe already there's an existing patent or something on that type of product, and who the owner of that patent might be kind of getting anyone else selling that same kind of product, they might be getting them removed. That's one thing that I've seen happen before. Yeah, I guess that's a real bummer. I'm not entirely sure what to suggest. Usually, unfortunately, you with Amazon, when there are issues like this, you just need to persevere, stick with it, keep following up, even though it is painful. I acknowledge that Seller Central is not the easiest to handle. They often don't give you a phone number to work with and make you wait on their replies, which are slow. So it is a bit of a grind to do, but I guess the only thing I can say is to continue trying. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, when they do that for counterfeit, there, if you follow up on the ticket that they created or however they communicated with you, it's usually they create a ticket and they're going to ask for you to submit additional paperwork, and go through different processes, maybe and send photos with the branding on the product itself and the packaging and the invoices. So you definitely just need to continue to drive that, because they tend to drop the ball. Unfortunately, one customer support person may not be as knowledgeable as the other. It's the pain that we all have talked about as existing sellers, that their customer support is horrendous. And so you just, what I like to do, a little hack that I do, is if I don't get the answer that I want, I hang up, call back, get the next customer support rep. And if they still don't understand what I'm talking about, hang up, call the next time. And you're just every time you're gonna get someone, and then maybe you'll finally land on someone knowledgeable. But trust me, we all go through this, and we have to do this.
Yeah.
And then, all right, so it looks like, going back to the top of the feed, it looks like Rob asked, what's your rule of thumb for adjusting PPC bids? General rule of thumb is, I like to see the suggested bid. I like to go maybe 100% above the, or not, you don't even have to go 100, just 20% above the top of the suggested bid, because that means that you'll be able to outbid the competition, and so your impressions will probably show more regularly versus the competition. And just monitor it. Eventually, over time, you're going to see the average. You'll be able to estimate the average bid, and then you just drop it down to maybe 20% above that of what people are actually paying, or what you're being charged per click, and then you could base it off of that. Okay. Jeremy asks, hi everyone, super excited to be here. Brand new seller, about to list my first product. Congratulations, Jeremy, that's awesome. Is PPC Vine feature available in the UK? PPC is available in the UK.
I don't know about Vine. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think Vine. They're two separate things. PPC is one thing, and then Vine is a separate program that Amazon offers. But I don't believe that Vine is eligible. But you'll do fine with just PPC. I'm telling you, PPC. I just love PPC. Like, if you haven't noticed, it works very well to get you, on page one from day one, like I like to say.
Yeah.
Hello, Christine. Jeremy asks, when inputting brand name when creating a listing, do I put my name with the LLC designation, XYZ LLC, or do I just put the company name? Now, if you're talking about when you're creating your listing, if you're not brand registered, do not put a brand there. You'll want to put in/A, so not applicable, or so you don't want to put a brand name there yet, because they're going to try to verify that that you're brand registered and you're not there yet. So that's very important on your listing. If you're talking about going back to setting up your account, the early stages of just setting up a Seller Central account, you there's the format, the suggested format. It'll say, if you just hover over like the little question mark, ideally you have two things. Remember, there's going to be your store name, and then there's going to be the business name. And to be quite honest, they really don't matter, but to the extent that your store name will be visible to the general public on your listing. So I would just, for the store name, I would just make up a generalized name, because you really don't know what it is at this moment what you're selling. So just be very general and broad.
Yeah.
All right. When will you be releasing the advanced PPC module? I know I've been talking about that. There's been a lot of changes with PPC. So we started the draft version of what we'll be covering, and then Amazon went in and changed the entire interface and added new features, which is good, but bad in the sense of when you're creating content. So we're actually we will have that. I've mentioned it here, the advanced PPC modules, which will be added to Freedom Builder Bootcamp. Our goal is within the next, that'll be the focus of like first quarter of this year, is to get those created. Maybe Lenny, since you're on the video, since you're the video manager, what would you suggest for a timeline?
Yeah, I think we can definitely get through it this the early part of this year. We'll have to kind of talk through how much, what sort of changes we need to make, and go through it a little bit more. But I think we could definitely get it within the next 6 to 8 weeks, probably.
Awesome. And in addition to that, in the meantime, there is a great PPC video that you recorded. Is that correct? On Jungle Scout. So if you go to Jungle Scout and you go to Academy, there's a PPC module in there, if I'm not mistaken.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So the next one's from Jeremy. Would you recommend hiring a quality control company to perform the inspection in China, or once it gets to the US? Definitely China, because you want to, if there is any issues, that way they can get resolved before it gets sent all the way to the US, and there's nothing else that you can, there's not much you can do about it at that point.
Good feedback from Shiraz. He mentions that Vine is in the UK. So that
cool. Thanks.
So there is both PPC and Vine is offered in the UK.
Cool. Christine asks, how long does the research campaign stay up? And correct me if I'm wrong, Rolando, but normally I would leave the kind of research campaign just always mining for more and more keywords. And maybe at some point you might get to the point where it's not really bringing back anything new, but otherwise I would leave it ongoing. What do you think, Rolando?
Yeah, and for the reason being too, that sometimes you're going to notice changes from maybe even like, the seasonal stuff, and different, throughout the year people are searching different keywords. So that's why it's important to keep that ongoing if your budget allows for it. Ideally, what's happening is the PPC is almost paying for itself. It's converting, and so it's factored in as part of your long-term budget. You're like, if like any business, you're always going to have a marketing budget. This is your marketing budget, and so that's why it's ongoing. And your automatic campaign and your manual campaigns are ongoing. You're just going to be optimizing them over time, and that's all that happens. You could reduce budget, you could increase budget, just depending on the results that you're getting. But you definitely are constantly running them. You can add additional keywords into your research, like broad keywords. So you might add another broad. There's your long tail keywords typically that perform well. You put those into your exact match campaign, because the person has to type that exact phrase or that exact wording to be able to display your ad, and that's very effective. Long tail keywords are the sweet spot. That's like your bread and butter. But your broader type of keywords, they go into your research campaigns, and you could target them. There is certain scenarios where like your broad keywords is very effective and has a good conversion, then you would you could even ultimately move that into your an exact match campaign. But yeah, they're ongoing.
All right. So then looks like the next question here is from actually Christine, what are the pros and cons of a trading company? We went back, we covered that earlier, so go back through the replay if you'd like to see that. Rob says this past December was very exciting as a seller, marked my highest selling month. That's awesome, Rob. Congratulations.
That's awesome, Rob. That's cool.
And then also asks, is there any way we can choose which Amazon warehouse to send to? The Las Vegas warehouse processed my second product faster than my first product, the Dallas warehouse. I don't know if this still works, but I remember there was like this little hack or trick that people used to do. I had never done it, but I think essentially when creating a shipment, they would just, the ship from address, they would basically make that ship from address closer to the warehouse that they were hoping to get sent to. And then usually that improved their chances of it going to that warehouse. I don't know if that even still works or exactly how that went. I've never worried too much. I just send it to whatever warehouse that they request me to. But that's one thing I heard of in the past. I don't know if you know anything about it, Rolando.
Yeah, actually, no. I used to do this one hack where I would create a shipping plan, and if it wasn't a fulfillment center that was closer to my freight forwarder, which is in Los Angeles, then I would delete that shipping plan, create a new one, delete that, create a shipping plan with lower like amounts of like units, and it used to work. It was another hack that that we used to do as sellers. However, Amazon has cracked down on that. Like, there's no way you could avoid it. You're going to have to send it to the shipping center that they automatically generate. And typically, the reason being is that they want to get it coast to coast and like wherever they're looking at demand for that particular product. So it almost to your detriment if like they're sending it to, let's say they're suggesting to send it to Texas, but you want it to be in California, but the reality is the demand is in Texas, then that's what they're looking at. They're looking at where's the demand geographically, and where's the, we can, fulfill it faster. So that's why they do that. So, just kind of stick with that. Don't do what I used to do.
Yeah.
They crack down on that.
I think that's a good point, Rolando. That's why I've never tried to kind of fight it too much, because the other thing to think about is that often, while one place might process it in a little bit quicker than where Amazon wants to send it, like Rolando said, that might be where the demand is. And even if you were to get it sent to your preferred warehouse and they process it faster, they might end up reserving like a whole bunch of your inventory to send it back to the other one, because again, that's where the demand is. So they're trying to optimize and ship it to wherever they feel it's going to be, best utilized. So that's why I generally, for the most part, just kind of let them allocate it where they think is best. I can take this next one if you like, Rolando.
Yeah, go for it.
This one's from Brett, just because I've gone through this process recently. If I go through the Amazon IP Accelerator program, do I need to select a product first, or can I just set up a generic brand? I haven't made a final selection of a product yet, but I've got a pretty good idea of what my first couple of items will be. They are not related, so I want a generic brand. I would like to use the enhanced content that you get when you're brand registered. Yeah, this is a great question. I went through this process recently on the $1 Million Case Study because I wanted to use the IP Accelerator program, but at this point I hadn't picked a final product, but I wanted to get brand registered because I knew that I just wanted to register the generic brand. So yes, you can use the IP Accelerator program without having decided on a product. One of the first things that they asked me was, or like there was two different types of applications. There was an application for you are intending to sell. Then there was an application if you are already selling this particular product. Really, the difference came down to, I think it might have cost an extra $100 or a couple $100 for the intending to sell. But that's what I ended up going with just because my product literally hadn't been created and wasn't live. So they went through the process of registering Jungle Creations as intending to sell this product, but I did have to pick a specific class to register in. So that did require me to, kind of have an idea what my product was. And so it was like some kind of textile class because I'm selling these sort of dog pads. So I did need to know that. But as I mentioned earlier, I think once you've got the trademark, you've then been able to enroll in brand registry. I don't think the classes matter that much. So you can really get through the whole process without having an actual product yet. And, the reason you might want to do that is because when you create your listing, like you mentioned here, you might want to take advantage of the enhanced brand content. And also, you can always, I believe you can create a listing up front without the enhanced brand content or without being brand registered. And then I believe that you can change that to a brand registered product afterwards. But I suspect that process is a little bit of a hassle. I think it's easier just to, if you can, just start your brand new listing with your registered brand name. So hopefully that helps and answers your question.
All right. Looks like Rob has the next question. My supplier has increased the price because of the rising price of raw materials. Any tips on how to get the best price?
You're the man here, really Rolando, with negotiating.
Yeah, it really just comes down to like negotiating and being like gentle threats. Like I would say, of saying that you'll take your business elsewhere, or don't remember we're it's a fine line though, because we're trying to establish good rapport, have a great relationship with our supplier, but definitely you can say you can try to say things like, hey, look, the product I'm selling them, they're selling fine, but if the pricing, my competition on the platform I'm using, if you raise the price, I won't be able to sell this product any longer. So when they realize that maybe there's a potential for a loss of business, then it may be the time that they'll consider to make some prices. But don't be surprised if they really come back to you. I mean, sometimes like I've done that and it's been great, and they've reduced it maybe like 5, 10 cents up per unit, and I'm like, cool, whatever, that's great. But then sometimes even maybe a little more significant, or sometimes they just come back, we're sorry, like we really just can't do much else. So yeah, just like it's just a matter of just communicating with them and negotiating with them, negotiating a little harder, and then seeing if it works. But if not, you're still profitable, that these things happen, and though they rise in lockstep, the cost, I mean, you can adjust your price on Amazon. Everybody's feeling that crunch at the same time. Typically your supplier is the same supplier for your top competition, so they're going to have to adjust their price. And so just monitor your competition. I think it would be another thing. Monitor the competition, see what they're doing to adjust, and like follow in lockstep with them. Like I said, I don't like to be the cheapest product on the market. And sometimes, even I price myself above the competition, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't negatively impact. But it's all about testing. So you run a test of like a 7 to 14 day window. This is what you call split testing or A/B testing. And so right now, what your sales velocity, what your sales volume looks like, and then run increase your price by small amount, not crazy, nothing crazy, and then run it for 7 to 14 days. Don't touch it, don't do nothing. 14 days. If you see a dip, then you know that you were like literally like at your peak pricing range. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
All right.
Where are we at now?
So Christine was asking if her questions got answered. Yes, I believe that we answered your questions earlier. So just probably jump back through the live stream or the replay. The
And
next
I think
question, yeah.
I was gonna say I think you covered that the next question pretty well. It's about brand registry. And you're
Yeah.
asked, what is the best time to brand register before listing product or at the same time? Is it a good idea to register brand from the beginning without making any money? If I do have some budget for that,
Hmm.
absolutely. If you have the budget for it, remember we're thinking long term when it comes to our business. Like any business, you've got to begin with the end in mind,
Hmm.
and knowing that you're going to scale your business. The goal isn't just to make like just small income. Eventually, you want to be able to build your Amazon empire. So you need to be able to know that a brand is the end result of any product, even if it's just one individual product. Like a brand is the end result, and so um, brand registry just helps you in terms of you're going to get access to additional tools to help you to set yourself apart from the competition with A+ content. You'll be able to add videos, upload video content to your, and all of this helps with sales. And so that's why brand registry definitely is a must. And I dropped the link. Actually, I didn't mention this, Lenny, but I dropped the link to Amazon's IP Accelerator program. I almost say that that's must to go through them if you're at the starting stages, just because
Yeah.
it's an internal process that they have. It's all worked out. If you try to go and or get trademarked elsewhere to get brand registered, it's just going to create more hoops for you to go through. And we try to eliminate as many hoops as possible
Hmm.
to launch your first product and
Yeah.
to scale and grow.
On that note, yeah, I would just say that I found the IP Accelerator program to be more or less a no-brainer because before actually going through it, we thought that perhaps the downside of using it might be that it is it's quite a bit more expensive than just going to find somewhere yourself. But I actually found it to be the opposite, or I found it that the prices of the IP Accelerator were pretty much the same, or basically exactly the same as uh, any other service that I'd seen. So the fact that you get to, chop 9 months of waiting off, it just kind of made it a no-brainer to go through that program, and they help you all the way through. And yeah, just like Rolando said, if you do have the money to afford to go through brand registry upfront, it does just make it easier if you can do it first thing. But if you don't have the money and you need to save some cash, then you don't have to. Just do it as soon as it makes sense for you. All right.
Looks like you answered the next question, which was from Julio. That was like the first. That was the first one that you took on, right?
Yep. Yep. So we talked about that one. And then just coming back to one of your earlier answers, Rolando, Ed was just confirming that the Amazon address doesn't need to be different than the LLC when you're registering your seller account. And that's essentially what you're saying, hey, is that you need to use your own physical address. So yes, that quite likely will be different to your LLC, but that's okay. You just need to be able to receive a postcard and be able to verify your own address.
One of the things too is so when you're setting up your LLC, you're still going to use your physical address. You're still going to provide the LLC service provider. Let's say we recommend. I mean, there's several out there. One that we've had some success with, and we're not, but we can't. I'm not an attorney, and I gotta make this disclaimer. I'm not an attorney, and everything that we share on here is from our personal experience. But Wyoming registered agents, I think we share a link in the Facebook, in the course modules, but that's one that we've used. Like the reason I say that is you're going to use an agency to create your LLC. If you're from out of country, then there's some particular steps that you'll go through for that. And so that would be your actual address as well. But they're going to provide you like a virtual address. Don't ever use the virtual address. I guess that's the thing that I'm referring to, is don't use the virtual address for anything. The virtual address comes in handy. You're going to need the registered agent. In other words, every year you're going to re-up and pay. I think it's like $25, 25 or to $50. I'm not quite sure what the annual fee is for the registered agent service. You definitely need that. That's just, and this hopefully never happens, but that's in case like anybody needs to get in contact with you for like a lawsuit or anything like that. That would be where like mail of that type of category would go to. They would go there, and then they would probably upload those documents for you to see, online. But that's the only time that you would have like that address would ever come in handy. You don't use it for billing. You don't use it for nothing other than that. All right.
Okay.
See,
I think that's pretty much it. Rob mentions that his supplier sent him a Christmas gift, which was really nice, and building a relationship is very important. Would absolutely agree. Like Rolando said, you're thinking of the long term, and building a strong supplier relationship is very important. ZR says, would you consider making a course of fulfillment by Walmart, because Walmart is becoming number 2 and has less competition? Yeah, Walmart is definitely something that we're watching very closely, and we're looking into the process and considering content there for sure. So stay tuned for more information on that. And Christine was just asking about her questions. Oh, maybe Christine was the one. Is that the one that we're going back to now, Rolando? Maybe.
Yeah, I do believe that is the case, which we will definitely. We just wanted to get through, like, cycle through a variety of questions from, to kind of share the love with everyone. But that's what we're here for. We're here to answer your questions. So no need to apologize. We definitely want to answer as many questions as possible. You honestly, this is the highlight of every month we do these, and getting here and being able to help is the highlight of everyone on the Jungle Scout team. So we'll get to it. I think the questions that came through from there looks like.
Yeah. Oh, actually, there's a couple of quick ones here that we can go through. Rashad says, is there a way to know inventory stock of my competitor using Jungle Scout if they have stock more than 999? Let's see. I can't remember I'm pretty sure the way that we calculate stock, I don't know, I think it's different to just the old 999 trick. So I think I don't know offhand, to be honest. I thought that perhaps we have the way that we calculate or can figure out competitors' stock was more advanced than just the 99 trick, but I can't remember offhand. So I can't answer that, sorry. And then
I still use the 999 trick because I think if they have more inventory than 999, then they probably won't be running out of stock anytime soon.
Yeah.
So unless they have a high sales, the high sales volume, then I don't think that beyond that it really plays a factor. The time that it comes into play is if you type in 999 and quantity that you want to order, and then it comes back that there's only 20, then you could jump on that and be like, okay, I'm gonna order a ton of these or whatever. So that's it plays more if it's below 1,000 units, then that okay, either this person, they're gonna stock out soon, and knowing that so many sell per day, they're going to be stocking out within this time frame, and they're just not monitoring their inventory wisely. So then you could probably take that to your advantage. Above that, I mean, it's going to take some time for that, unless it's a really hot product, which in that case, just dive deep into that, because that might be a very competitive space.
Yeah. And also keep in mind that the product tracker there has very accurate estimates or real sales numbers, or uses real sales data as well to show you how many sales they're getting per day, because that's really the result that you want. That's the reason that you're trying to calculate the inventory, is to figure out how many sales per day. So you can definitely get the daily sales volume in there, which is more valuable than just knowing their inventory levels. And then I think the only other question that I can see in this thread is, can you use the virtual LLC address for creating contracts with the suppliers? My opinion would be, yeah, I'd say that's fine because I don't think they'll, you don't really need it to be a physical address as far as I'm aware. So I don't think that address really matters, to be honest. So I think you'd be fine doing that.
Where it does come into play, I'm thinking this now, thinking this
Hmm.
through, where it comes into play is when it's going through customs. They're going to need to validate the address on record. Um, Currently,
Right.
trying to think of what address I have on mine. I mean, I live in the U.S., so like I use my address. I have no problems with
Mhm.
that. Um, I'm just trying to think. Also, another thing is a lot of people are concerned of sharing their address because then it also appears, on you can see it on why is the word escaping me on essentially like you can see it on the shipping imports documents. You can see the address that's being used on the shipping import documents. That's information that's publicly available, and so due to the Freedom of Information Act, so anybody can go in and see where who the supplier is, what the name is. I think the name is the more and critical thing to mask. The address, not so much. The name is what you want to be able to mask and use with your supplier. Um, and then the address I wouldn't be so alarmed by. All right,
All right.
and I guess we'll jump on. Like we'll have to. We're out of time, so what we'll do is we're just going to answer Christine's question. We promised we would
And
come
then wrap
back,
that up. Yeah.
um, but we won't be able to take any more live questions at the moment. But we have. But if you want to stick around, we've got several questions here to tackle that might be helpful for you. I do want to make a shameless plug for Lenny and the $1 Million Case Study. If you haven't been following, you definitely want to follow along and as he's documenting this process of launching and scaling a product. And what I do is I'll typically pin the post of the next episode that's launching right here in the Facebook group. Right now, typically the next thing that's happening, I pin. So a week out before our Facebook Live events, we'll pin the Facebook Live feed as an announcement. And then the weeks after, maybe some additional, the weeks in between, there may be some additional announcements. Also, the calendar for the Facebook Live events, you can find that at the very, very first module within Freedom Builder Bootcamp. You'll be able to see the different dates that we have scheduled out for every Facebook Live. For the rest of the year, we're at the start of the year. But that some dates and times may change, but we'll always give you an advance notice about that. But tentatively, those are the dates that we have scheduled. It comes out to be the second Thursday of every month is when we do these Facebook Live events. So just a couple of announcements there, and I guess we could jump into this.
Oh, sorry. So it looks like the first question for Christine is when looking within the product tracker, there are multiple sellers. Is the monthly sales number divided among the number of sellers, or is this an average between all sellers? So this is when there are multiple sellers. This is just for the overall listing. So that total number of sales is divided up amongst all of the sellers, whoever controls the buy box, essentially. So it's a combination. Number 2, in regards to an LLC, am I able to create an LLC in a different state than the one I live? And why would I do that? I recall Greg talking about this in a module. So, yep, I too need to say that I am not a lawyer and I can't give legal advice here. But I think basically what it comes down to, the main reason you would consider a different state than the one you're in is for tax purposes, because every state has different, tax benefits and so on. So that's what you would want to discuss with a professional to kind of find out what makes the most sense for you, whether it's your own state or a different one. Yeah.
I'll add to that too that some states they've made the process easier than others. So that's why Wyoming LLC, you could do it all online. And in most
Right.
cases nowadays, especially after like the pandemic, every state has tried to take everything online. So, but that's one of the reasons that that people would pick another state over another. But if we really want to get into the legalese of it, and once again, I'm not an attorney. It's also the what they call the Iron Curtain of certain states have actually had better protection overall. There's lots of precedents of cases, and so that's why like the Maryland LLC is a very popular one, because Maryland is kind of the birthplace of the United States LLC. So it has a long-standing history of cases that essentially, like, if you were in a lawsuit, that you could use. But for our purposes and as Amazon sellers, those things aren't as relative to us as like the ease of being able to create an LLC. And that's why, if you can get quick access to creating an LLC, that's usually, we want faster turnaround time. In addition to that, there are certain states like the state of California that you will need to create an LLC within the state of California due to their state tax laws and so forth. So it's suggested that if you reside in California, you're going to create the LLC in California. The unfortunate thing is also price. So some states charge more to create an LLC versus others. And all of those things are really what defines where you decide to choose an LLC. You're going to see, okay, this state costs more. It doesn't provide. It takes a month to create the LLC there. They don't do it as a timely fashion, so on and so forth. Then that's what's going to arrive you at your decision. And like I said, certain states charge state taxes and certain that you need to essentially report. Others don't. That might be a factor because so that's all of that comes into play.
Wow, Rolando, maybe you should be an attorney. You know your stuff. That was very well put. All right, so question number 3. I have an idea for a variant ASIN of a product that sells really well. They come in a set of different animals. I know of an animal that is currently on trend that is not included in the set, nor do I see it within the other products of this category. Is it worth pursuing, and would I find the top seller's supplier and copy this and just add the animal I have this hunch about? So maybe I'll start at the end there. Yeah, that is a good way to go about it. If you can track down the top seller's supplier, that's always a good strategy no matter what you're doing, because if you can see the product on Amazon, see that it's all getting 5 stars, then you know that it's a quality product. So if you can find that particular supplier, then you've kind of verified they make a high quality product. So yes, I would say that's a good step. You can go to that supplier, see if they sell this other type of animal, this other variant. And I think that is worth pursuing. Keep in mind, we often talk about like not reinventing the wheel and selling things that don't already have demand on Amazon, like inventing something new that you think will sell, but there's nothing to back it up. However, in this case, I feel like if the product itself, whatever it is selling well on Amazon, but there's just like, it's almost like a different sort of design of that product. You've verified that the product does sell well, but you want to try a slightly different design of it that no one else is selling. I think that's fine. Perhaps you might want to also sell the 1 or 2 or the top variants that are already there, sell those, and then also add in the new variant, just because that sounds like there's no history of that particular variant selling on Amazon, even though you've got a hunch of it selling well. So yeah, I'd maybe sell whatever the current popular variant is and then also test this new one. But yeah, overall it sounds like you've got a good handle on things and a good plan there.
All right, next question. Question number 4, right, Lenny?
Yes, correct.
Okay, we're on 4. So it's when doing a product search within the database or an opportunity finder, what order did the products come up? How is the list generated? And when I download the CSV, they are numbered on the left side column. What is the significance of this numbering?
I don't think, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, I don't think there's any significance with the order of results in product database and opportunity finder. We've got all of the columns of information there, like monthly sales, competition, price, etc., etc. And so really there's no default order really. It's designed that way so that you can choose how you want to order it, whether you want it to see it from the top revenue down or lowest competition up, however you want to sort it. So the default order really doesn't really have any significance.
Yeah, so what you'll want to do to be able to define what you're interested in looking at, and organizing it in according to what you're looking for, you just have to click on the little cell at the top, and it'll organize it based on that, either by revenue or by sales units sold, or whatever, XYZ. What I like to do is I like to reverse engineer the process and kind of start with the one that doesn't have as high of a sales volume, just because everybody's starting at everybody wants the most the one that has the highest sales volume. But if we're seeing that they're selling 10 units a day, and so 300 a month, then we know that it's a fairly decent product. I try to eliminate any, one in the filters. I try to eliminate anything that doesn't meet that, the 300 units per day, the 10 units per day requirement. And then basically by reversing it, I can kind of go down the list and start to see products. So that's just the one little hack that I do to try to like not do what everybody else is doing, just kind of like reverse it. You're still gonna have to go through the whole, like a long list and vet and do your, run your calculations, but at least you can kind of speed things up a little bit.
Yeah. All right, we got number 5. I see an opportunity if I take a top-selling product and add another to it as a ready-made bundle. Let's see. How would I combine the two totally unrelated products? Would I expect the supplier to receive a portion of the product from another supplier and package it together? I believe this item would sell best as a kit. Yeah, so there's kind of like a number of pros and cons here. I've actually done this in the past where I've got two completely different suppliers, and basically I got one supplier to send it to the other one, and my original supplier agreed to package them together for me at no extra cost. So this is something you'll need to discuss with your supplier to see whether they're open and willing to do that. I think that's probably the easiest way to go about it, but again, I don't know if every supplier will be open to that process. Also, yeah, let's see. I mean, you could probably use like a third-party company that would package both products together, which kind of adds an additional step to it. So I would prefer just to use one of the suppliers to do it. So I think that's a good idea. Again, like I mentioned, I would just ask one supplier if they're happy to do the packaging. I suppose the supplier that has the main product or the biggest product, etc. So I think that's great. The advantage is that you are producing a bundle, which inherently makes it stand out on Amazon. It also means that it's harder for your competition to copy because there's just those added steps of coordinating all of this. So yeah, it makes it harder for other people to copy, or it makes it more work for other people. They might be, less motivated to go to all that effort to try to compete with you. So those are the pros. The cons are obviously that you've got more moving parts now. You do need to rely heavily on having like good relationships with your suppliers and good timing, making sure that one sends to the other one, that they send the right amount. There just inherently is a little more complexity with this. But if you're happy to navigate that, then I think it can be worthwhile. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, next question.
Okay.
I think it's 6, which is if videos for the product description can only be used by a brand registry account, is this the reason maybe for a low quality score, LQS, of 6 and not 7? Not necessarily. A low quality score, keep in mind what directly impacts um, low quality score is if it's a relevant product, keyword related. I think that's where we, um, and the sales velocity. So it's like it more or less is like the bestseller ranking. Why is it that a product isn't performing well in terms of bestseller ranking? Is because it's going to be a whole lot of variables, not just the A plus content. There's plenty of products that are starting out, plenty of sellers that are just starting out and aren't brand registered, but they're, they do really well because they have great photos. The photos definitely do impact quality score. They've done a really great job with keyword research, and the title is all of the keywords within the listing are pretty much a good match, and really can just tell because of this, like the search. It comes up in search results when searching for a particular product, and at the added part is person finds the product, but then goes all the way through and buys, and that's pretty much what helps the quality score of a product is like end to end. Like it's not just looking at if it's brand registered or not. Like it could impact. Like I said, in most cases, brand registry or A plus content only helps to close the deal. Like it takes your potential buyer from just like going above the fold, anything when you first land on the page, to continue scrolling and finding interest in your product, and that will ultimately drive them to buy. So that's why A plus content is a factor in the sense of it does help conversion rates altogether. I
Yeah.
don't know if I answered the question. It's like,
Well,
but
yeah. No, exactly like you said, Rolando. Essentially, I don't think we weigh video heavily, possibly not at all within the LQS score. For one, if you think about it, not that in the scheme of all the listings out there, not many people have videos. Even a lot of the brand registered listings, a lot of people are utilizing enhanced brand content now. That's becoming more and more popular, but not that many people as a percentage are utilizing video yet. So at this stage, I don't think we're weighing that too much into the calculation, because it's like Rolando said, it's more about the title, bullet points, descriptions, and enhanced brand content and images. All of those things are what make up the LQS score. So I don't think the video would make an impact on the LQS score of a product.
and also reviews, that's a big one. Like if there's
Yeah.
poor reviews, that's a big chunk of like what helps to determine LQS score, because if it's got like a 3-star rating, then we know that the quality of the product is probably not that good.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so that would probably be another one that we throw in that mix. And
Gotcha.
last
Cool.
question comes to, I'll let you answer this one, Lenny. Could a product without a video ever be a LQS score of 7?
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty much just piggybacking off that last answer that um, there are the LQS score is pretty much determined by all like images, all the written text, etc. that we've just covered, more so than the videos. So you could definitely have 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 scores without having videos on your listing.
And with that, it looks like we are at the end of the questions. We've gone over by 45 minutes, but we're just so happy to be able to to answer your questions. And if you continue to have questions, keep in mind that you do have our community within the Facebook group. And then in addition, to reach out to support at freedombuilderbootcamp.com. So I always suggest use both outlets to be able to get your answers. Sometimes in the Facebook group, someone may have gone through the same experience and they can quickly respond to your answer. And then we will always answer you via a support ticket. And yeah, it's always our pleasure. I don't know if you want to have any closing thoughts, Lenny.
No, thanks for having me on. It's been fun answering all these questions. Definitely check out the $1 Million Case Study on YouTube as well. it's kind of been fun because I've been going through this process of launching a new product. So it's actually interesting. There are a lot of these questions that we've been answering today that are actually sounding quite familiar because I've been kind of going through this process recently as well. So yeah, it's definitely a fun journey. Somewhere, I think that, I don't know where it was, I did see a question around like, is it too saturated at the moment? And the answer is absolutely not. I mean, that's why we're here at the moment, like helping you guys out, is because we see a lot of opportunity here. As I mentioned, with the $1 million case study, I'm going through the process of launching a new product at the moment. And part of the reason why, in addition to just being able to show people the steps, another big reason is just to also show proof that the opportunity is still very much alive, and it is a huge opportunity. And just to echo what I said at the start of our session today, that we've seen a huge increase in people shopping online, so the demand has gotten even greater. Yes, there's more competition overall. That's definitely been growing year over year, so it's more competitive than it was a few years back. But at the same time, there's this huge increase in demand, particularly in this last year. Amazon are rolling out all these really cool features that make it even easier to sell on Amazon. So you've got things like the early reviewer program. You've got Vine to help you get reviews. You've got review automation, which is, well, that's actually a Jungle Scout tool that automatically requests reviews for you, because that was something that was always really hard to get for a long time, was getting reviews, but it's actually a lot easier now. As Rolando mentioned, there's lots of new PPC improvements. So there's an abundance of demand. There's all these brand new tools and ways to promote your products out there. So if you can't tell, I definitely think it's an exciting opportunity, and there's definitely, lots of pieces of the pie out there for everyone that's willing to put in the work.
And I think with that, I mean, that's a great summary. Awesome. It's been a pleasure, Lenny, and
Likewise.
I look forward to next month's live coaching session, and keep crushing it.
Keep crushing the Freedom Builders. Take care. We'll see you next time.